All right. Come Monday, if you take public transportation, if you're at airports, you're at a bus stop, a bus station, a train station, you better have your mask on. I don't know what the heck they're going to do to you. I don't think they're going to arrest you, but they will kick you out. They have that freedom to do so here as the CDC cracks down on general mask requirements across the country here to deal with the spike in cases that we have seen, even amidst an increase in number of vaccines that we're seeing as well. Dr. Devi Nampiaparampil joins us, the Metropolis Pain Medicine Director, NYU School of Medicine. So much more. Doctor, great to have you back. Thank you for coming in on a Saturday. I don't think a lot of people are aware of these requirements that will kick in on Monday. What do you think the fallout will be? Is it going to help?
Well, most people seem to be in favor of masks at this point. Most people are wearing masks. So in terms of the benefit, I am in favor of masks in general, but I think the risk here is, people may not realize. So if someone doesn't have their mask or if someone doesn't follow it, what's going to happen? And as you mentioned, throughout this pandemic, I think the issues that we've had are, what happens if someone doesn't follow the rules? Like, what are the penalties, and are they going to be excessive? Because that's when we've seen kind of rebellion and sort of distrust and anger. And second, in terms of exceptions, which there seem to be some here. So if someone has a medical reason for not wearing a mask, are there going to be a large number of exceptions? Because whenever you have a rule and too many exceptions, that's when people get mad too. And finally, if someone who we need to be on public transportation is then suddenly thrown off public transportation, then what are the consequences to us? So, for example, if you suddenly have, I don't like the term essential workers because it implies that other people are not essential. But if you have essential workers on these forms of transportation and suddenly they get thrown off, then what do? Is that going to be a problem for the rest of society? So for all these reasons, I can see problems coming up. I mean, even the discretion for who's going to enforce these rules, like let's say you have kids who refuse to wear masks, is that going to be enforced the same way as if you have an adult who philosophically opposes masks? Because it should be the behavior that
does come at an
is
interesting
looked at,
time,
not
right,
necessarily
Doctor?
the attitude.
I'm sorry, but it comes at an interesting time because we are seeing, more sweeping edicts here. Not only workers who are being told by their bosses, you come in, you better be testing negative for this thing, and a number of other businesses that are double, triple, quadruple checking that you're free and clear, medically speaking, to return to work. So it comes at an inflection point here, doesn't it?
It does. And even the testing, I mean, I have an issue with that because our testing is not perfect. And depending on the type of test that you get, you may be able to manipulate that system. So if you want to go back to work, you might opt for the antigen test, the rapid antigen test, which has more chance of maybe coming back as a false negative rather than the PCR test, which is more likely to be accurate and come back as a positive. So there are ways of manipulating that system depending on what type of result you want to get. So, and it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't guarantee that you have, that you are actually negative just because you have a negative result. It's only accurate for that moment that you take it, and depending on the limits of technology.
Like a snapshot in time. Very quickly, Doctor, I had a chance to speak to the Novavax CEO on his new drug that's available in this whole South African variant issue. He's watching it. This is from the guy who runs Novavax. I want to get your reaction very quickly. First, the head of Novavax. This concern about how effective it might be with this variant, this South African variant that's popped up in South Carolina, for example. Can you update us on that?
We got a 60% efficacy. 60% efficacy is obviously lower, but it's a good vaccine. It's at or above something like you get in standard flu vaccine. So we're happy with that. What we would like is to think, what we're thinking about doing is, the way to fix that is to think about making a vaccine that has that strain in it.
All right, so doctor, in 10 seconds, 60% efficacy rate isn't great, but it's still good, you say?
It is great. I mean, that means 60% of people who get that vaccine will avoid having a severe illness from COVID, right? So that's a good chance of staying out of the hospital, a good chance of not dying from COVID.
All right, doctor. Thank you. We'll have more to this.